The Walking Dead has had many problems over the years, and one of those problems is Daryl Dixon. And I'm not necessarily talking about the show Daryl Dixon, but that is one of the problems. But I'm mostly talking about the character Daryl Dixon. And this applies to characters like Carol, Gabriel, even Rick to a degree, and Negan. But it's mostly prominent with Daryl. So Daryl has no character arc, no character development. And I say that and it's kind of false. He does have character development, but he has no character arc. He goes in circles. He goes from being the loner type character who, you know, only really talks with Merle, sometimes talks with other people of the group, kind of is like Merle, but also doesn't want to be like Merle, because he sees the negative traits and the negative things about Merle, but then doesn't want to be like that. But he just kind of can't help himself. That's the way he's always been. Then in season two, he becomes more of an integral part of the group. And in season three, he even tells Merle like, "Hey, like you can't be alone anymore. You need people in this world to survive." And then he actually becomes like very much part of the group, and like everybody actually starts liking Daryl. Like he starts talking to people more. And by everybody, I mean like the actual characters, not necessarily the audience. I think by season four, it was when like the audience was like, "Oh, if you kill Daryl, we riot." And that kind of ruined Daryl, to be honest. Like this fan base that's like, "Oh, if you kill Daryl, we riot." I remember, most people when they first start watching The Walking Dead in season one, they're like, "Oh yeah, that character Daryl, 100% he's gonna die," and then he survives. And in season five, I think Beth even tells him like, "Oh, you're gonna be the last man standing," and the writers really took that to heart. They really wanted to make him the last man standing after that, and they always give him these cool, kills, these cool like things to say, and or the things that they think is cool anyway. And some of the kills aren't that like unrealistic, but some of them are kind of unrealistic or over the top and everything. And I'm fine with it. You can have like a character or two like that because it's like there's comic reliefs, right? There's characters that are more funny than others. You can have a few characters like that. But the problem is that the writers really go overboard with this stuff, and they don't want to stop. They're addicted to it. Every single writer, they want to keep doing this thing, and they don't want Daryl to have any character development or have any character arc, because remember in season three he told Merle, hey, you need people in this world to survive. You can't be doing this on your own anymore. And then guess what? He goes back to doing a few seasons later. He goes back to being on his own. And sure, that's fine. People in real life progress and degress, but it's never brought up, right? And then in season six, Aaron even says like, "Oh, like you're good out there on your own, but you're better in here with other people." And that's when all the Alexandrians kind of like join up with in Al or sorry, all the main characters kind of arrive in Alexandria, but then we have characters like Sasha and Daryl who aren't really too interested in Alexandria, don't think it's for them and everything. And Aaron, we had this really cool storyline with Aaron and Daryl, and Aaron kind of sees Daryl and says like, "Hey, yeah, you're better with people." And Daryl's like, "Oh, maybe I am better than with people," and then he kind of integrates himself into Alexandria, and we see him do that for a bit. But then guess what happens in season nine? He goes back to being on his own, and sure, he has his reasons for looking for Rick and everything, and I'm actually kind of fine with that because yeah, it is actually a reason for that, and it makes sense that he'd be obsessed looking for Rick because he was like basically obsessed looking for Sophia, right? And how much more is he gonna look for Rick, his best friend slash brother, than he is gonna look for a little girl that he barely ever knew, right? He barely ever talked to. So I'm fine with that. But then they want to after that, after him looking for Rick, they want to bring him back into the group, and then they want to make him go back into being a lone wolf type character, and it's just a circle of just like it's just like this continuous circle of Daryl not developing as a character, or not having a character arc, right? And also they give him a love interest, and then they screw that up with Leah. And by the way, when I say they screwed up, I don't mean they screwed up in the sense of making her like a villain or anything. Um, they could have done that, but it's just like they kind of forgot that Daryl and Lee even had this relationship in a sense, and they also want to make Daryl like this like emotionless, I don't know, just this emotionless like cool type character, which it doesn't make sense because Daryl's never been like that. He's always been super emotional, and I'm not when I say emotional, I don't mean in the sense of him being like crying all the time. And he did cry. Remember, he cried when his brothers died, and so a few other times. But he's a complainer. Especially in season one, like he's complaining all the time, like over the top, like come on, what are you doing? And he wants his opinions to be heard, but now he's just kind of like, That's all. That's all his dialogue is. It's just grunts. And first of all, Daryl needs to cut his hair. I don't know what Norman Reedus is crazy. He definitely should have cut his hair for the show, for his spin-off show. But that's a whole other story. I'm not really gonna get into that because that's just gonna be a tangent. But yeah, Daryl's dialogue is all just grunts now, and like non-emotional. He can't show emotion or anything, right? And that's kind of odd because when you integrate yourself, you would think you would be less emotional when you're a lone wolf, right? But then when you like kind of open yourself up and let yourself be part of a group, you'd be a little more emotional. And again, when I say emotional, I'm not necessarily mean like crying or anything. I'm just mean just showing emotions in general. Um, but but then once he integrates himself more into the group, then he just becomes less emotional. And I think that's not a thing that the writers did on purpose. That was the thing as like a character flaw or a just a character quirk for Daryl. It was something that they just did because like, oh, I think this is gonna be really cool, and now it's become this whole like you can't change it up anymore. It's like it's illegal if you're a writer and you want to change that up or give him an emotional storyline or something, it's illegal to do that, right? It's illegal to give Daryl an actual love interest and actually keep him with that love interest. Obviously, we had Leah, things got screwed up with Leah. Then we had Connie, nothing ever happened to Connie. Obviously cared, and obviously there's like thoughts fans were thinking like Carol beforehand, but that's never gonna happen. We know the writers, all the writers even say like, oh yeah, that's not gonna happen. But then we have Connie, and they had kind of like this really good connection. A lot of fans loved Connie. Connie was like the first big character or first character in a while that fans loved. Like that was like it was like a across the board, every fan loved Connie. Like I don't know a single person that was like, oh, I don't like Connie. Like, 'cause some people like Magna and Yumiko and everything, but some fans didn't though. But everybody loved Connie. And obviously, that's like to in a literal degree, that's not true. There's probably some fans that didn't like Connie, but like for the most part, every fan liked Connie, and nothing happened between them. They kind of just like forgot about each other. Even once Connie came back, even once like after she I think it was season 11, like episode 6 or something like that, in which she came back to the group. Daryl and Connie barely ever spoke because the writers, first of all, the writers they forgot to like actually they forgot that the characters actually have connections with other characters, that they have relationships with other characters, and I'm not even talking about like romantic relationships. I'm just talking about relationships, friendships in general. The writers kind of just forgot about that. Um, the David and Dan Benioff and DB Weiss, whatever, the writers for Game of Thrones meme. Danny just kind of forgot about that. Anyway, yeah. So the writers forgot that the characters have relationships with other characters, and they just didn't put Daryl and Connie together. And like even if there's no relationship, like some of the characters even brought up, like I think Kelly brings up to Connie like, oh, like there's something between you two, and then Connie kind of just like shakes her head, and even Carol brings up like once or twice like, there's something between you two and Connie, and then Daryl's like no, he's like nah, or just grunts or something probably, um, but like why do the writers have like why are they allergic to making Daryl a human being? Why do they have to make him this robot like that's super cool like Hitman type character? Like Hitman from the game series. Like why do they have to do that? I don't understand. And then, then we skipping to the main show or no, sorry, not the main show, to Daryl's spin-off show. We have Daryl and we even have Daryl kind of open up a bit with like the kids and everything and when he's like praying at the table because he says he's like a priest or whatever, and then him opening up to Laurent a bit as well, but also with I forgot that her name now in the show, but the female character, I don't know how I forgot her name, but the female character, right, the new love interest, he that she was a very good character, a very good character in like the first good character in a while since Connie probably like really good character, and the writers did nothing with her. They killed her off in season 2. Spoilers for season 2, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you've seen season 2. Yeah, they kill her off in season 2. They get Daryl and her to kiss, and then they kill her off. I don't know why they did that. That does nothing for the story. You know why I know it does nothing for the story? Because they have this repetitive circle that Daryl, quote unquote, learns a lesson or improves or whatever, and then he just digresses, and it's never brought up in the story. Like, hey, Daryl, you keep making the same mistakes over and over again. You keep improving and then digressing. It's never brought up as like a character flaw or anything like that. It's just Like it's like the writers don't even know that they're doing it. That they're like continuously writing Daryl in the circle. And obviously they do this with Carol and Gabriel too, because that sometimes Gabriel wants to be a godly man, and then sometimes he doesn't want to be a godly man. Sometimes he believes in God, sometimes he doesn't believe in God, and that's never brought up in the story. Like, hey, Gabriel, why do you like continuously like contradict yourself and be like, hey, I believe in God now. No, I don't believe in God now. Like, that's never brought up in the story at all. And I hated Gabriel in season 11. He was such a terrible character because of that. Just really annoyed me. And anyway. And so was Daryl, to be honest, in season 11. I mean, Daryl's been a terrible character for a long time, and like I like Daryl, and I like seeing him get some cool kills and everything. It's really cool, but I'd rather have an actual character than just some robot. And you can still have Daryl like killing people and zombies in a really cool way too, if you want. But I'd really rather have him be an actual character than a robot. Remember when he killed Leah in season 11, and he just walked off like emotionless? There should have been at least one tear fall down from his face when that happened. When he was walking off in the field after he saved Maggie, there should have been at least one tear fall down from his face. But I feel like it's like Norman Reedus also. I think Norman Reedus is part of the problem. And no hate to Norman or any of the writers as well. Um, I think Norman is probably part of the problem too, because whatever he says seems to go. Daryl not cutting his hair, that's because Norman doesn't want to cut his hair. Remember when Daryl killed Beta and all the fans were like, no, why did that fight like end so quickly? That was because Norman just thought that it would be best to have to have Beta die like very quickly. And I think there was like other things that Norman suggested and then the writers went with. I also Norman wanted a dog, which that was a cool idea, but obviously the writers kind of forgot about the dog, I guess too. And I'm pretty sure the dog's dead now, like in real life. But I think his name was like Seven or her name or something like that. Um, but yeah, or River, but I think River is the Fallout 4 dog. But yeah, Daryl or Norman Reedus suggested having a dog. That was kind of a cool idea, but nothing ever happened with that, so it doesn't even matter, right? And Daryl kind of doesn't even care about his dog or anything. He doesn't even care about Judith or RJ or anything too. And remember, he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna leave you," and then he just goes and leaves, and then doesn't like really actually care. Maybe he brings her up a few times to be like, "Oh yeah, I brought people back home." In his spinoff, but like he doesn't care though. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about Rick. He doesn't care about any of these people. But the writers want to make it seem like he does. But no, he's an emotionless robot that doesn't care about Leah, doesn't care about any romantic relationships, doesn't care about his friends, doesn't care about like his adoptive children kind of, or his nephew niece if you wanna count RJ and Judith as that. He doesn't actually care. He says a few things, but he doesn't actually care. We never actually see him care. And again, he doesn't need to start crying or bawling or anything to care. And if there's like this whole masculine storyline with him, like men don't cry or whatever. Um, well, what about in the past when he did cry? But also, like, why not bring that up if that is supposed to be like his thing? He maybe thinks he's feminine or something if he starts crying all the time, or just cries even once. And maybe that that's true. But like, why not bring that up in the story if that is what it is? But it's like no, it's the writers just want to make him super cool, want to make him this robot essentially. Obviously they're not. I've said robot so many times, and I know for a fact I'm kind of rambling in this video here, but this can be a rant. I'm kind of a rant. I admit I'm yapping, but sometimes you gotta do it, right? And I know for a fact in season 3 of Daryl Dixon, there's gonna be some cool set pieces. They're in Spain, right? There's gonna be some cool stuff. They're kind of giving us a Red Dead Redemption type vibe, with like this cowboy type stuff, and Fear the Walking Dead season 4 to 8 kind of already did that. But yeah, we're seeing some cool visuals and everything, but there's no character development. I know for a fact there's gonna be no character development for Daryl. Sure, he's gonna be maybe. I guess Laurent's gonna be. Yeah, Laurent, he's not even going to be with Laurent anymore. But, like, what character development did he even have with Laurent? Yeah, sure, he went from not really caring about Laurent to caring about Laurent. Okay. But did that do anything for his character? No. Did interacting with Connie do anything for his character? Did he change in any prominent way? No. He's still the exact same as he was in the beginning of season 9. Uh, did Leah change his character? No. Does he trust people less because Leah betrayed him? No. He's always been like that, right? So that's the thing with Daryl. He doesn't change no matter what happens to him. No matter what, maybe he has character development in one episode, but then he reverts right back to how he was in the next episode. And that's the same with Carol and Daryl. Their relationship in general is they make up, or sorry, they bicker, they make up, and then they bicker, they make up, they bicker, and they make up, and they bicker about basically like the exact same thing like every single time too. Which like I'm fine with them bickering, but it's like why do you have to argue about the exact same thing over and over and over again, right? Um, so yeah, and also like yeah, and the fact that they also have Daryl like always riding a motorcycle and everything, it's like, okay, buddy, like how are you getting all this gas? Where are you getting all this gas from? Anyway, I'm gonna end it off here because I am rambling, and you kind of you get the point. Daryl doesn't have any character arc, doesn't have any character development, not any real character development anyway. None of the characters, when you bring in a side character into a story, that side character, they may have many reasons to be in the story, but one of the main reasons to be in the story is to progress, is to either or contrast the main character's beliefs, or let the main character see something, um, like a parallel, like see themselves in the side character, or see, how they're different than the side character. Just it's supposed to be something, right? When you bring a side character in the story, it's supposed to impact the main character in some type of way. But no, that doesn't happen with Daryl. He maybe gets impacted for one episode or just 1 minute, and then he's back to the same exact way how he was before. But anyways, I'm gonna end it off here. Hope you guys enjoy. Subscribe, like for more, and bye. So, and by the way, I did like Daryl Dixon season 1. Daryl Dixon season 2 was kind of like, I don't know what you're doing here. But I did like Daryl Dixon season 1, and obviously the visuals look super cool. So I'm excited for season 3 as well. But yeah, it's just it's annoying.